It all started with a note, passed in homeroom. I remember the flutter in my chest, the way my hand trembled as I read the simple question. That moment led to shy glances across crowded hallways, to whispered conversations in the library, and finally, to our first fumbling kiss under the bleachers after a football game. He was my crush, the kind of guy who made the cafeteria lights seem a little brighter when he walked in. His smile was infectious, his laugh a melody I yearned to hear. High school love. It felt like forever, a promise etched into every shared secret and intertwined finger. He became my boyfriend, my anchor, my world. We were inseparable. Every movie night at my place, every late-night phone call, every silly inside joke just solidified what I believed was an unshakable bond. My best friend, my confidant, would often tease me about how smitten I was, but even she admitted we were the couple. We talked about college, about the future, about a little apartment with a window box and a cat. It was innocent, pure, and utterly consuming. Then college happened. We went to different schools just a few hours apart, but those hours felt like an ocean. The late-night calls became less frequent, the visits harder to coordinate. He was busy with his new life, his new friends, his new experiences. I tried to understand, to be supportive, but a creeping unease started to settle in my stomach. When he started talking about his roommate's girlfriend's friend, I didn't think much of it. Just casual conversation, right? One weekend, I planned a surprise visit. I missed him desperately and thought a spontaneous trip would be just what we needed. I remember the excitement bubbling inside me on the train, imagining his face when he saw me. But when I arrived at his dorm, the scene that greeted me wasn't a happy reunion. The door was slightly ajar, and I heard laughter from inside. My heart pounded, not with joy, but with a sudden, icy dread. I pushed the door open to see him, my boyfriend, laughing with another girl, his arm casually around her waist. She wasn't just another girl, she was the one he'd been talking about, the friend of his roommate's girlfriend. My world tilted. The air left my lungs. He saw me then, his face draining of color. The other girl, the new one, looked confused, then a flicker of understanding crossed her features. It was a silent scream, a universe collapsing in that tiny dorm room. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow, sharper and more painful than anything I had ever experienced. The high school love, the promises, the shared dreams, all shattered. I didn't yell, I didn't cry then. I just turned and walked away, the sound of his frantic calls echoing behind me, fading into the roar of my own heartbreak. My confidant was the first one I called, sobbing uncontrollably. She was furious for me, her anger a small comfort in my devastation. The months that followed were a blur of grief and anger. He tried to explain, to apologize, but his words were hollow, meaningless. I felt a cold resolve harden within me. The pain of betrayal morphed into a burning desire for something else. Justice, perhaps, or a twisted form of balance. My sister, always practical, always a realist, saw the change in me. "Don't let it consume you," she'd warned, but it already had. I started seeing him around campus more often. He was still with the new one, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. My mother noticed my withdrawn demeanor, her gentle questions about my well-being becoming more frequent. I brushed them off, focusing on my classes, on building a new life, but always with an undercurrent of something darker. Then an opportunity presented itself, a mutual friends' party. I saw him there, laughing, carefree, the new one by his side. A plan, cold and precise, began to form in my mind. It wasn't about hurting him physically or even emotionally in the way he had hurt me. It was about exposing the truth, about making him face the consequences of his actions in a very public, undeniable way. I approached the new one first, feigning friendly concern. "Hey," I said, my voice carefully neutral, "can I talk to you for a second?" She seemed wary but curious. I led her away from the crowd to a quieter corner. And then, calmly, methodically, I laid out everything. Our history, the promises, the surprise visit, the dorm room scene. I showed her old photos on my phone, proof of our past, proof of his deceit. Her face, at first skeptical, slowly crumbled as she saw the evidence. The realization dawned on her, a mirroring of the pain I had felt. When she confronted him, later that night, in front of all their friends, in front of my friends, the scene was explosive. His denials were weak, his excuses transparent. The truth, ugly and undeniable, was laid bare for everyone to see. The new one walked away from him, her face tear-streaked but with a newfound strength. He was left alone, exposed, his reputation in tatters. As I watched him stand there, bewildered and defeated, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was no triumphant glee, no overwhelming sense of victory. Just a quiet satisfaction, a feeling that finally the scales had been balanced. The sting of high school love, the sharp pain of betrayal, had finally found its release in a moment of calculated revenge. It didn't erase the past, but it allowed me to finally, truly move on. As I watched him stand there, bewildered and defeated, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was no triumphant glee, no overwhelming sense of victory. Just a quiet satisfaction, a feeling that finally the scales had been balanced. The sting of high school love, the sharp pain of betrayal, had finally found its release in a moment of calculated revenge. It didn't erase the past, but it allowed me to finally, truly move on. Or so I thought. The immediate aftermath of the party was a whirlwind. My friends, who had witnessed the dramatic confrontation, rallied around me, a mixture of awe and concern on their faces. "You actually did it," my confidant whispered, her eyes wide with a respect I hadn't seen before. Her initial anger for me had shifted into something akin to admiration, though she still hugged me tightly, sensing the lingering tremors beneath my calm exterior. My sister, whom I'd called shortly after leaving the party, was less congratulatory. "Was it worth it?" she asked, her voice laced with the worry-eyed groan accustomed to. "Does it make you feel better?" Her question hung in the air, unanswered because truthfully I didn't know. The quiet satisfaction I'd felt at the party had begun to dissipate, leaving behind a hollow ache. The public exposure had been a sharp, clean cut, but the wound of betrayal still festered underneath. It was like performing a necessary surgery, only to find the pain wasn't entirely gone, just altered. The next few days at college were different. Word travels fast on a university campus, especially when drama unfolds at a popular party. I became something of a whispered legend, the girl who got even. Some people looked at me with a newfound respect, others with a hint of fear, as if I possessed a dangerous, unpredictable power. A few, mostly his remaining close friends, shot me venomous glances, but their numbers were dwindling. He, my ex-boyfriend, became a pariah. His group of friends fractured. The new one had already moved on, and a palpable tension followed him wherever he went. I saw him once in the dining hall, hunched over a tray, alone. A pang of something akin to pity, quickly extinguished, flickered within me. This wasn't about destroying him, I reminded myself. It was about reclaiming myself. My mother called, her gentle questions now more persistent, tinged with an underlying knowingness. "Are you really okay, sweetie?" she'd ask, her voice soft but firm. "Revenge can be a bitter meal." I tried to reassure her, to paint a picture of newfound peace, but even to my own ears, it sounded like a carefully constructed lie. The truth was, I felt restless. The focus that had driven me, the singular purpose of my revenge, was gone, leaving a void. I threw myself into my studies, trying to fill the emptiness with academic pursuits. My grades, always good, became exceptional. I spent hours in the library, not just studying, but losing myself in textbooks, in research papers, in anything that could distract me from the echoes of the past. Yet, even amidst the intellectual stimulation, a quiet dissatisfaction persisted. It was as if a part of me was still waiting, still anticipating the next move in a game that had already ended. One afternoon, a few weeks after the party, I was sitting in the campus coffee shop, trying to focus on an essay when I saw the new one. She was with a small group of girls, laughing, and for a moment my stomach clenched. Old instincts, a flash of rivalry, surged through me. But then she looked up, met my gaze, and offered a small, hesitant smile. It wasn't accusatory or defiant, but something softer, almost understanding. I nodded back, a silent acknowledgement. She excused herself from her group and walked over to my table. My heart gave a small thump. I braced myself for an argument, for lingering anger, but her expression was unexpectedly gentle. "Hey," she said, her voice quiet. "Can I sit down for a second?" I gestured to the empty chair. "Sure." We sat in silence for a moment, the clatter of coffee cups and low hum of conversations filling the void. She fiddled with the strap of her bag, seemingly searching for the right words. I just wanted to thank you," she finally said, looking up at me, her eyes earnest. For telling me the truth. I blinked, genuinely surprised. You don't have to thank me. I couldn't let it go on. No, really, she insisted. I was so angry at first at both of you, but mostly at him. He made me feel so stupid, like I was a fool. She paused, a shadow crossing her face. And you were brave to do what you did. It must have been incredibly hard. Her empathy was disarming. I had expected resentment, perhaps even a defensive anger, but not this. It was, I admitted, my voice softer than I intended. It really was. I broke up with him, obviously, she continued, a wry smile touching her lips. And I'm honestly glad. I deserve better. We both do. She looked at me, a glimmer of shared understanding passing between us. It's funny, isn't it? How two people can be hurt by the same person in completely different ways but still end up here. We talked for a long time that afternoon, not about him, not really, but about the experience of betrayal, the sting of being lied to, the process of piecing oneself back together. It was a strange, unexpected camaraderie born out of shared heartbreak. By the time she left, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in months. It wasn't the triumphant rush of revenge, but the quiet solace of connection, of being truly understood. This encounter marked a subtle but significant turning point. It wasn't just about moving on from him, but about moving on from the need for external validation, from the lingering bitterness that had become a part of me. The desire for justice had been fulfilled, but now a deeper need emerged, the need for genuine healing. I started to engage more with my campus community, not just academically. I joined a book club, volunteered at a local animal shelter, and even started taking a beginner's pottery class, something my younger, pre-heartbreak self would have scoffed at. Each new activity, each new connection, chipped away at the hardened shell I had built around myself. My confidant noticed the change. You're actually smiling again, a real smile, she observed one evening, a knowing warmth in her voice. My sister, too, called less with warnings and more with genuine curiosity about my new pursuits. She even admitted, reluctantly, that perhaps my actions at the party, while extreme, had indeed been a catalyst for something good. Just make sure, she'd add, ever the pragmatist, that you're doing this for you, not as a reaction to him. The pottery class, in particular, became a surprisingly therapeutic outlet. The tactile sensation of the clay, the meditative focus required to center a spinning lump of earth, the slow, deliberate process of shaping something beautiful from nothing, it all resonated deeply. It was a physical manifestation of my own rebuilding. Each wobbly pot, each slightly lopsided bowl, was a testament to effort, to learning, to the beauty of imperfection. One evening, as I was leaving the pottery studio, my hands still covered in clay, I bumped into someone. Literally. My box of freshly glazed, yet-to-be-fired mugs clattered to the floor, some cracking, one shattering completely. "Oh my God, I am so sorry," a voice exclaimed, full of genuine distress. I looked up to see a tall, dark-haired guy, his eyes wide with apology. He immediately knelt to help me gather the pieces, his movements quick and efficient. "No, it's okay," I said, though a wave of frustration washed over me. Those mugs had taken hours. "It's really not okay. Let me at least replace the ones that broke," he insisted, his gaze meeting mine. He had kind eyes, crinkling at the corners when he smiled, which he did tentatively now. "I'm Ben, by the way." "Maya," I replied, a small smile forming despite the broken pottery. There was an easy, genuine warmth about him that was instantly calming. Ben, it turned out, was a senior art major, specializing in sculpture. He worked part-time at the studio, helping with firing and maintenance. He insisted on getting me new mugs and even offered to help me rethrow the damaged ones. We spent the next hour in the studio, him patiently guiding my hands on the wheel, showing me little tricks to center the clay, to pull the walls up evenly. His presence was comforting, his instructions clear and encouraging. He made me laugh, genuinely, for the first time in a long time about something other than shared misery. Working alongside him, feeling the cool, pliable clay beneath my fingers, listening to his easy banter, I realized something profound. For months, my emotional landscape had been dominated by the ghost of a past relationship, by the bitterness of betrayal. Now, in this moment, in this clay-filled studio with a kind stranger, I felt present. The past was still there, a part of my story, but it no longer defined my every breath, my every thought. It was a quiet, exhilarating realization. As the weeks turned into months, my friendship with Ben blossomed. We grab coffee, study together in the library, and often end up in the art studio, him working on intricate sculptures and me slowly, painstakingly, improving my pottery skills. He never pried about my past, but he listened intently when I occasionally alluded to it. He offered silent support, a steady, grounding presence that I hadn't known I was missing. My mother, ever perceptive, noticed the shift in my tone when I mentioned Ben. "He sounds lovely, darling," she remarked, a subtle note of hope in her voice. My confidant was less subtle. "Spill," she demanded, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Is he the one?" I just laughed, shaking my head. It wasn't about the one. It was about rediscovering myself, about learning to trust again, not just others, but my own judgment, my own capacity for joy. There was an evening, late in the semester, when Ben and I were walking back from the studio. The air was crisp, the campus lights casting long shadows. We had been talking about our plans for the upcoming summer, our hopes and fears for the future. He paused under an old oak tree, turning to face me. "Maya," he began, his voice a little softer than usual, "I know you've been through a lot, and I don't want to rush anything or make you uncomfortable. But I really like spending time with you, more than just friends." He looked at me, his kind eyes searching mine. "And I was wondering if you'd ever consider going on an actual date with me." My heart did a little flutter, reminiscent of the old days, but this time it was different. It wasn't the frantic, anxious flutter of infatuation, but a warm, gentle thrum of possibility. I smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. "I'd like that very much, Ben," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Our first official date was simple: dinner at a small, cozy Italian restaurant off campus, followed by a walk through the town square. We talked for hours, sharing stories, dreams, and even some of the deeper fears we carried. There was an ease between us, a comfortable silence interspersed with genuine laughter. I found myself opening up to him in ways I hadn't thought possible since the betrayal. I told him in broad strokes about my past relationship, about the hurt, and even about the revenge. He listened without judgment, his hand occasionally reaching across the table to gently squeeze mine. "It sounds like you went through hell," he said softly, after I finished. "But it also sounds like you found your way out on your own terms. That takes incredible strength." His words resonated deeply. He didn't try to fix me or offer empty platitudes. He simply acknowledged my experience and affirmed my resilience. That, more than anything, made me feel seen, truly seen, for the first time in a very long while. As our relationship slowly, gently, began to deepen, I realized that healing wasn't a linear process. There were still days when a particular song, a fleeting scent, or even a random conversation would trigger a memory, a phantom ache of the old wound. But these moments became fewer and farther between, and their intensity lessened with each passing week. I had learned to acknowledge them, to allow myself to feel the residual sadness, and then to gently release it. One evening, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. It was my ex-boyfriend. His voice was hesitant, almost meek, a stark contrast to the confident, charming boy I had once known. "Maya," he asked, his voice cracking slightly. It's his name." A knot formed in my stomach. Old anxieties stirred. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice cool, guarded. I just wanted to really say I'm sorry," he stammered. "For everything, for how I treated you, for what I did." I waited, a part of me expecting an excuse, a justification, but none came. "I know it's probably too late," he continued, his voice barely audible. "And I don't expect you to forgive me, but I've had a lot of time to think, and I realize now I was a coward. I messed up, big time, and I hurt you and the new one, and I didn't care about anyone but myself." He took a shaky breath. "I just wanted you to know that I understand now, and I truly regret it." Silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken history. The call wasn't about demanding forgiveness or rekindling anything. It was a raw, unfiltered acknowledgement of his wrongdoings, and in that moment, something shifted within me. The last vestiges of anger, the simmering resentment, began to finally, truly dissolve. It wasn't forgiveness in the sense of condoning his actions, but a release for myself. A recognition that his remorse, however belated, was his burden to carry, not mine. "Thank you for calling," I finally said, my voice steady. I needed to hear that. We didn't talk long after that. There was nothing more to say, no old wounds to pick at. The conversation was a period at the end of a very long, painful chapter. When I hung up, I felt a profound sense of peace settle over me. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about me and my journey forward. The path to healing had been circuitous, fraught with pain and fueled by anger. But it had also led me to unexpected friendships, to a deeper understanding of myself, and to a gentle, hopeful new beginning with Ben. My high school love had felt like forever, a promise etched in stone. But true forever, I was learning, was built not on youthful infatuation or misguided promises, but on resilience, on self-discovery, and on the quiet, enduring strength of one's own heart. Life, I realized, was not about avoiding pain, but about learning how to navigate it, how to grow through it, and how to find beauty and connection on the other side. My journey was far from over, but the road ahead, for the first time in a long time, felt clear, open, and full of possibility. I had not just moved on, I had evolved. And that, I knew, was a victory far sweeter and more enduring than any act of revenge could ever provide. The summer brought a gentle warmth, mirroring the state of my own heart. Ben and I spent our days exploring the small town that bordered our campus, discovering hidden trails, quaint bookstores, and the best ice cream parlor with mismatched chairs and a perpetually sticky counter. He introduced me to his passion for jazz music, and I, in turn, dragged him to indie film festivals, much to his amused tolerance. Our conversations flowed easily, spanning everything from the profound to the absurd. He became my sounding board, my confidant, and the source of a steady, quiet joy that hummed beneath the surface of my days. My confidant, still my closest friend, would often visit, observing our budding relationship with a knowing smile. "He's good for you, Maya," she'd say, her eyes reflecting the genuine happiness she felt for me. "He sees you." And she was right. Ben didn't just see the girl who had been hurt or the girl who sought revenge. He saw the budding artist, the curious student, the sometimes awkward, always thoughtful woman I was becoming. He celebrated my strengths and gently understood my vulnerabilities. My sister, on one of her rare visits, also gave Ben her seal of approval. After an evening of intense, rapid-fire questions from her, a subtle interrogation disguised as friendly conversation, she pulled me aside. "He's smart, he's kind, and he actually listens when you talk," she declared, a rare compliment from her usually critical tongue. "He's got good hands, too," she added, nodding towards the intricate metal sculpture he was currently working on in his studio space. I laughed, knowing her practical nature appreciated craftsmanship in all its forms. As the new academic year began, our relationship deepened further. We moved beyond the initial honeymoon phase into a comfortable, enduring partnership. We faced the usual college stresses together, grueling exams, demanding projects, the occasional roommate drama, and through it all, our bond grew stronger. He was my rock, but he also challenged me, encouraging me to push my boundaries, both creatively and personally. It was Ben who first suggested I showcase my pottery. I had accumulated a small collection of pieces, bowls, vases, and even some intricate decorative tiles, each one a testament to my progress and healing. "They're beautiful, Maya," he insisted, holding up a particularly elegant, if slightly asymmetrical, vase. "People should see them." I was hesitant, my old insecurities bubbling to the surface. What if they weren't good enough? What if people judged them, or worse, me? But Ben's gentle persistence, coupled with his unwavering belief in my talent, eventually swayed me. He helped me set up a small display at a campus art fair, arranging my pieces with a professional eye that belied his own busy schedule. The day of the art fair was nerve-wracking. I stood awkwardly behind my table, feeling exposed, vulnerable. But then people started to stop. They picked up my bowls, admired the glazes, and asked about my process. To my astonishment, a few even bought pieces. The feeling of someone genuinely appreciating something I had created, something that had sprung from my own hands and heart, was exhilarating. It wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about the quiet satisfaction of sharing a part of myself and having it received with warmth. One woman, her hair streaked with silver and her eyes kind, picked up a small, imperfectly shaped teacup. "There's so much character in this," she said, her voice soft. "It tells a story." Her words resonated with me, a profound affirmation of the journey I had undertaken. My pottery wasn't just clay. It was a tangible representation of resilience, of finding beauty in imperfection, of transforming pain into something meaningful. As the day wound down and the last few visitors drifted away, Ben came over, his arm wrapping around my shoulders. "See," he whispered, pressing a kiss to my temple. "I told you." I leaned into his embrace, feeling a deep sense of gratitude, not just for him, but for myself, for having found the courage to embrace this new chapter. The experience at the art fair sparked something new within me. I began to see my art not just as a hobby, but as a potential path, a way to express the complex tapestry of my inner world. I started experimenting with different clays, glazes, and firing techniques, pushing the boundaries of my skill. The pottery studio became my sanctuary, a place where I could lose myself in creation, where the past faded into the background, replaced by the immediacy of the present moment. My mother, sensing this newfound passion, sent me a large box of art supplies for my birthday, sketchbooks, paints, and a gift certificate for a local art supply store. Her accompanying note was simple: "Follow your joy, my darling. It will lead you where you need to go." Her words, usually so full of gentle advice, now felt like a profound blessing. Around this time, an unexpected opportunity arose. A small, independent gallery in a nearby city was hosting a juried exhibition for emerging artists. Ben, ever my biggest cheerleader, urged me to submit some of my pieces. "What's the worst that can happen?" he asked, his smile infectious. "They say no, then you just keep making more beautiful things." The submission process was daunting. I carefully photographed my best pieces, wrote an artist's statement that felt both deeply personal and professionally detached, and filled out the lengthy application. The waiting period was agonizing, a constant ebb and flow of hope and self-doubt. Then, one afternoon, an email arrived. The subject line made my heart leap. "Congratulations, juried exhibition selection." My hands trembled as I opened it. Two of my pieces, a textured vase inspired by the rugged coastline near my childhood home, and a set of nesting bowls adorned with a subtle, swirling glaze, had been accepted. I let out a joyous whoop, startling Ben, who was sketching quietly beside me. When I showed him the email, his face lit up with a grin even wider than my own. He lifted me in a celebratory hug, spinning me around until we were both dizzy with happiness. The exhibition opening was a surreal experience. My pieces, carefully lit and displayed, looked professional, polished, like they truly belonged. My parents, sister, and confidant all made the trip to celebrate with me, their pride radiating warmly. My mother, her eyes misting slightly, gently touched the rim of my vase. "It's beautiful, Maya," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You've truly found your voice." Standing there, surrounded by art and by the people who loved me, I felt a profound sense of closure, of peace. The journey from that fateful note in homeroom, through the crushing heartbreak and the burning desire for revenge, had led me to this moment. It wasn't the destination I had envisioned as a high school girl, dreaming of a perfect future with her first love. But it was a future that was richer, more authentic, and built on the solid foundation of self-discovery and resilience. The lessons learned were etched not just in my memory, but in the very fiber of my being. I learned that betrayal, though painful, could be a catalyst for growth. That revenge, while offering temporary satisfaction, ultimately paled in comparison to genuine healing. And that true love, whether romantic or platonic, was about seeing and celebrating the whole person, flaws and all, and supporting them as they navigate the messy, beautiful journey of life. My art became my anchor, my voice, my way of communicating the unspoken stories within me. I continued to create, to experiment, to evolve. The quiet satisfaction from the art fair blossomed into a deep, abiding passion, a constant source of wonder and challenge. Ben remained by my side, a steady presence, a gentle encourager, a true partner. Our love story was not the fairy tale I had once imagined, but it was real, grounded, and filled with a quiet strength that promised a future of shared adventures and enduring companionship. We still talked about the future, about a little apartment with a window box. But now, the vision was clearer, more vibrant, filled with the hues of our own making. And perhaps a cat or two, curled up amidst the scattered sketches and the gently cooling pottery. The lingering shadows of the past had truly faded, replaced by the bright, hopeful light of a new dawn. I was no longer defined by what had happened to me, but by what I had chosen to become. And that, I realized, was the most profound victory of all. The quiet strength I had found within myself, the artistic voice I had cultivated, and the genuine connections I had forged all served as testaments to a spirit that had been broken, but ultimately had been made whole again, stronger and more beautiful than before. The journey of moving on was not just about leaving something behind, but about stepping into something far greater, the fullness of my own life, sculpted by my own hands.